raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear.
I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear.
That I will faithfully execute.
That I will faithfully execute.
The office of President of the United States.
The office of President of the United States.
We have been given a gift by God today to usher in a new dynasty.
Now you get RFK Jr.
Don't you want a president who's going to make America healthy again?
You get Tulsi Gabbard.
Putting our country in a continual state of war.
You get Elon Musk and you get J.D. Vance.
A hell of a way to start the next 4 years.
The right-wing Avengers.
We have an army of digital soldiers.
Department of Defense under Donald Trump will achieve peace through strength.
Shut down the FBI Hoover building on day one.
The rescission of 78 Biden-era executive actions, executive orders, presidential memoranda, and others.
The golden age of America has most definitely begun.
Begin preparing the 30,000-person migrant facility at Guantanamo Bay.
They're getting the dirt bags off these trees.
There's one guy who can fix this shit, and it's Donald Trump.
What's storm, Mr. President?
You'll find out.
Darkness gathers, the evil takes its form, but side by side we ride into the storm. Thought they could blind us. the storm. Together we ride into the storm.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. My name is Josh. Welcome to the Red Pill Project's Daily Dose, live with you Monday through Friday. I hope everybody is doing well out there and having a fantastic week so far. Just a few different things tonight. DEFCON 0 right after this show, 9:30 Central, 10:30 Eastern on Badlands Media. I hope you guys can all join me over there. This is going to be a good one. We got an interview rolling out at the first part of the show that I hope you really do enjoy because, well, it was not an easy interview to get. But that is DEFCON 0 tonight, so I hope you guys get to watch that. And what do we got going on for the rest of the week? Tomorrow, Wednesday. So we've been doing Friday with our live Q&As. Tomorrow night is going to be the live Q&A. I'm going to keep you guys up late. So after Daily Dose tomorrow night, and this will be 10 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. Central, we will have the live Q&A. And this is for all of our premium subscribers. And people are like, man, why do you have to do that to premium subscribers and stuff like that? Well, listen, we all got to survive, man. And you know, it's one way that you can help support the Red Pill Project and everything that we do. And I appreciate all the subscribers out there that help support myself and the Red Pill Project. Now, if you're like, well, how do I get into it, Josh? I don't mind paying for $5. Well, pretty easy. All you have to do is just go over to redpills.tv, redpills.tv. And that's redpills.tv. And you just go on over to premium right there at the top. You see like that's like highlighting red. Like at the top, you get that indication right there. Premium right there. You click on that premium, and these are the platforms. So you can go on YouTube, Social Red Pill, Locals, Substack, and X subscriptions. And tomorrow night after the show, the Zoom link will be put in all of the private chats, premium subscriber only chats for all of those platforms. Like, what is Social Red Pill, Josh? Josh, what is Social Red Pill? Social Red Pill is a private social network that I started immediately when we got banned from all platforms back in 2020. And we have quite a bit of members on there, though quite a few active, which is pretty cool. We're about to revamp it, though. I've been saying this for years, but now we're at the point where we can kind of do a lot more things with it. So there's a lot of things going on that platform. You get a lot more kind of, I guess if you want to call it bang for your buck on there. A lot of cool things happening right there. But it's just a social community with a lot of us on there from the Red Pill Project. So pretty cool right there. And hope you guys can go over there, support us, and support everything that we do. And getting into what's happening right now in the world, because obviously a lot of stuff is happening simultaneously, I might say. You kind of like have three movies that are playing simultaneously. It's pretty crazy, right? You got like the Guardians of the Pedophiles, which is the Epstein stuff and the sexual assault stuff in Congress. That's all coming from dark to light. Then you got panic in D.C. because the Democrats' institutions are being taken down, NGOs, Act Blue. And then you got FISA-gate. You got this case that is happening through a grand jury in Fort Pierce, Florida with John Brennan. Now, lots of rumors out there about this case. I saw quite a few people saying, oh my God, John Brennan's going to get off. No, that is not the case. So today it was announced that the DOJ has withdrawn subpoenas tied to the investigation into former CIA Director John Brennan. This does not mean what people are thinking it means. There's a few different things to kind of look at with this case. Number one is you just had the lead prosecutor, that is Maria Medeiros Long, who just resigned last week. So the lead, and this is not a coincidence, people. What you want to start looking at is you want to look at the timeline of what you're seeing here. Go back a few weeks ago. Pam Bondi gets fired. That is the start. Todd Blanche comes in as from dad to attorney general, and you start hearing Todd Blanche and John Solomon start talking about things are going to hyper accelerate. Declassification is going to be on a hyper accelerated scale. What they needed to do is they need to get the declassified documents, the evidence declassified in order to get it over to the grand jury so they don't have to do something called CISP, which basically is allowing the grand jury members to view classified information within a SCIF, right? And that takes a long time because, number one, you have to get permissions and approvals for the classified material to get released to the grand jury. Then you have to set the SCIF and the time for them all to view it. And this drags out. That can actually take years. So you want to get that declassified information out. Now, here's the thing. That should have been done already. That should have already have happened, but it has not. And we can kind of blame Pam Bondi and stuff like that. But Pam Bondi fired. Blanche comes in, talks about hyperacceleration and declassification and the movement forward on these cases. Then a week later, you get Maria Meditis Long, the lead prosecutor, which resigns. And I don't think she resigned. I think she was fired. But typically in DC, in that environment, you resign when you're really fired. So, career federal prosecutor, the head of the National Security Section in the Southern District of Florida. She was leading an investigation into John Brennan. She left the case after raising doubts about whether there was enough evidence to bring charges. Now, that's one of the key points here, is that she was the one helping issue all of the subpoenas, organize all the evidence, and she didn't see potential to actually bring about charges. And I think that is an after-the-fact statement that she made. So what do we actually see happen here? The United States Department of Justice issued subpoenas in the investigation tied to John Brennan. That was about a month and a half ago. You remember James Comey, Susan Rice, these types of people. The lead prosecutor, Maria Meditis Long, stepped off the case after questioning whether charges were viable. And then shortly after, the DOJ has withdrawn the subpoenas. They shifted to voluntary interviews instead of compelled testimony. So number one is people like James Comey, Susan Rice have already testified in this, and other factors have already testified in this. The remaining subpoenas, which we don't know who are on them, have now turned into voluntary. My guess is that the remaining subpoenas are probably very, very high-level profile figures. Barack Obama, Joe, these types of people. So what is really going on? This is more of a leadership change and a reset of the case. It doesn't mean that the case isn't going to move forth. It doesn't mean that the case can't be done in a week. It just means that you have the DOJ, now under Todd Blanche, moving into this case to completely review it. So if you remember, this last Monday, they just appointed Joe DiGenova to U.S. Attorney, right? And where did they send him? They sent him to Fort Pierce, Florida, to review the grand jury over John Brennan. This is where it starts to get interesting, because what they were thinking is, number one, that grand jury should have already probably had an indictment behind it, but it did not. In other words, you kind of start thinking about deep state infiltration or people that maybe don't understand the ongoing conspiracy case against John Brennan. They're looking at the case built upon the 2016 Intelligence Community Assessment, which documents change, perjury to the Senate and Congress. The Steele dossier utilizes the primary example for this. And maybe they didn't understand how to navigate this and expand it into other places. Joe DiGenova understands that ongoing conspiracy. He is in Fort Pierce, Florida right now after Maria had been fired, reviewing all of the documentation, all of the case files, and what the grand jury has been doing. And so what we start to see is that today, probably through Joe, he made the decision to withdraw the formal subpoenas and issue voluntary testimony subpoenas. And this could be an intermediary to, well, they shift the case structure into an ongoing criminal conspiracy. This could be that they already had all the testimony they needed. There's a very good chance here that what this actually indicates is that it's a reorganization of the case structure, so they have to do it through legal process, but that the case is already done. The grand jury is probably already produced its indictments, which are currently sealed, but they need to cross their T's and dot their I's. And so they're going to go through, they're going to withdraw the leftover subpoenas that probably nobody has shown up for, issue a voluntary testimony, and then they're going to move forth with the case structure that they already have. But the idea behind that is if you're going to indict them into a grand jury, you better damn well sure know that you can win this case. And so that's why Joe DiGenova is out there right now. So I don't think that this is indication of anything bad or that the Brennan is getting off with a hand slap. That is anything but the truth. This is something else entirely. It's that Pam Bondi's DOJ absolutely fucked up this case, and now Todd Blanche is having to go in there and probably restructure this and reorganize it. So that's what I got out of it. A lot more nuanced than what everybody else is talking about. I got my patches on. So what else is going on today? Because obviously that's a big one. We're waiting for those indictments to come. I actually predicted that you would see your first indictment coming up on April 24th or April 28th. So we're 7 days away from the 28th and 3 days away from the 24th. I still think that you could potentially see an indictment coming. And one thing that I've been just kind of feeling inside my being, man, feeling inside my being, is you have all this attention on the Fort Pierce, Florida grand jury. What if there was another grand jury? What if there was another grand jury that was in secret, special counsel appointed by Pam Bondi, that was out there, that's about to issue indictments? Just saying, I think it's very plausible that that could be the case, and that we actually do see within the next week an indictment of John Brennan. We've been seeing a massive amount of Democrats and Republicans leave Congress. This is what Alpha and I have told you guys was going to happen. The closer and closer we get into the summer time frame, you're about to see an exodus out of Washington, D.C. That's what we mean by into the storm. Donald Trump is absolutely cleaning the house out there. And today you have Democrat Representative Sheila McCormick has resigned from Congress right before charges were read by the Ethics Committee towards her. So over the last few weeks, what you've had is you have Eric Swalwell, gone, goodbye, probably going to see prison time. You have Tony Gonzalez, Republican from Texas, gone, goodbye. You now have Sheila McCormick, gone, goodbye. And you potentially have others that are going to be happening over the course of the next few weeks. And Corey Mills is another one I've been hearing the name that is going to be gone. And it's not just Democrats, guys. And I told you this. It's not going to be just Democrats. It's going to be Republicans too. I mean, yesterday you had Trump's labor secretary resign. Why? Because her husband was a sexual assaulting pervert. Well, isn't that very similar to DHS Secretary Kristi Noem, who I never liked, said I never liked, whose husband wears fake tits and does all this baby porn stuff? I don't know, like where he dresses like a little baby, and I don't know. That's some weird shit. But guess what? They're immediately being kicked out and removed from their positions of power. And I think that you're about to see more of this coming into the summer timeframe, especially with potential of the Epstein files, as well with new documentation that is going to come out over the course of June in the July timeframe. And you're going to find a lot of congressmen and senators be implicated. I think that we're into the Me Too movement part 2. But this time it's not Hollywood, it's Washington, D.C. And you're going to see a mass exodus from Washington, D.C. And I told you that this will happen in and around the time after the primaries into the midterm campaigning model, where they're all out into their districts and they're out with their constituents, and all of a sudden a story drops on them and they're forced to resign. Because Washington, D.C. is an absolute cesspool. Almost every single person out there, except for a select few I could probably name on my hand, are clean as a whistle. So watch out. It's coming. What else do we got going on? Well, Donald Trump today, what did he say? Never allow traitor Democrats like low IQ Hakeem Jeffries or crying Chuck Schumer or the totally corrupt fake news media such as the phony or decaying Wall Street Journal, the failing New York Times subscriptions way down, or dying 60 Minutes to demean or criticize Operation Midnight Hammer, which totally obliterated the nuclear dust locations to the point where bloodthirsty Iran has been unable to get to it or dig it out. Space Force has cameras on every inch of the 3 sites that were so brilliantly hit last June. Thank you for your attention to this matter. This post by Donald Trump is actually very, very important and telling in many different angles. And I want to break this down. Number one, what he's talking about with Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer, we'll get into that part in a second. When he's talking about with the New York Times, all of this. But they've been jumping onto the propaganda bandwagon with pushing out Iranian propaganda, Chinese propaganda pertaining to Operation Midnight Hammer, even rooting for Iran. But what is more important here is what he says about Iran. He says, Midnight Hammer totally obliterated the nuclear dust locations to the point where bloodthirsty Iran has been unable to get to it or dig it out. Nuclear dust, we're talking about the remnants of the 1,000 pounds of refined uranium. So refined uranium, this is what we're talking about here when he says nuclear dust. So during last year's operation last June, when the B-2s dropped bombs in Iran, they destroyed the nuclear stockpile, the uranium stockpile in Iran. And Trump is confirming this right here. And he's saying that Space Force has cameras on every inch of the 3 sites that were so brilliantly hit last year. Basically, we are watching these sites day in and day out, and we have confirmed that Iran is unable to get to it. Now, if you also go back to the part of the negotiations with Iran, Trump comes out and says that we're going to bring in heavy material machinery. We're going to go out and help Iran dig this uranium out, and then we're going to remove it from Iran. And Iran's like, that's not going to happen. But Donald Trump is not playing them, is not being played as a fool, because he understands that they don't have control of their uranium. And I think that that's really huge, because if Iran did have a nuclear weapon, well, then there's no way they could possibly build it or launch it with the fact that Donald Trump is saying that. Also, it brings about something very, very important. The statement that Donald Trump is making is most likely active U.S. intelligence, that Iran's uranium, refined uranium, is buried under furlough, under their nuclear facilities that were bombed last year, and that Iran has been unable to get to them. And Trump says Space Force has been watching these facilities, and we know they can't get to them. Now, why is that so important? Because it absolutely demolishes the narrative of Tucker Carlson and Joe Kent. Think about this. Look, I'm neutral on these people, but it destroys their narrative. That Donald Trump was convinced by Benjamin Netanyahu that Iran was still developing a nuclear weapon and was going to bomb Israel and U.S. bases with nuclear weapons. No, it's impossible. Donald Trump just showed you right there that they've had the intelligence until June of last year, that there is no way that Iran could have started back up their nuclear program, because their nuclear dust was absolutely buried and they're unable to get to it. Little hints that he gives you, little things. So Democrats, these people are sick. Let's bring this up. This is the other part of his post there.
Trump's two-front war is expanding. We have a ceasefire with Iran, but we're still being fragged on the home front. Iranian propaganda has infiltrated the Senate. The regime boasted that 26 of their ships busted through our blockade, and Democrat Senator Chris Murphy bought it. He posted, "Awesome. What an idiot. The whole thing's a hoax."
So, Trey, that was just Iranian propaganda, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Now the senator says, it was just a joke.
Do you regret the post? Are you planning on taking it down, or are you going to keep it up?
I mean, I guess I just have to be more careful about sarcasm on Twitter.
Murphy's been siding with the mullahs for years. Back in 2020, he was caught secretly meeting with Iranian leaders behind Trump's back, which is probably a violation of the Logan Act. Lock him. Then 2 years later, he tried getting them off the terror list.
Would you take the Iran's Revolutionary Guard off the terror list in order to get a deal?
Yes. Again, what an idiot. 47's at war with terror.
So what you get is you get massive propaganda being perpetuated by the Wall Street Journal, by the Washington Post, by Democrats, even to the point where Democrats are coming out and actually supporting for Iran to win this, like Chris Murphy. That's atrocious. That is absolutely horrific, and I can't believe that an American that's actually serving our country in Congress or Senate could actually stand up and do something like that. And I don't care whether I agree with the war or not. The fact that the war is happening, we must win. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. We must win. So President Trump called out Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries traitors on live TV, attempting to undermine his negotiations with Iran. So let's listen to what Trump has to say about this, because this is the other part.
You know, so it's tough. But we can't let traitors. We can't let traitors like Schumer put pressure on you where they say we want out. Think how bad that is. I'm negotiating with these people, and they're telling us we have to get out now. We have to get out now. We have to get now. And they were in a war for 18 years. They were in a war for, think of that, Vietnam, 19 years, Iraq, 8 years. So right. I want to make a good deal. I'm not going to be rushed. I have all the time in the world. I want to make not a good deal. I want to make a great deal. I don't want to do this, go through this. And, you know, I mean, if you look at this, what we've suffered in terms of losses, we lost 13 men, and that's terrible. I wish we didn't lose one. But if somebody would have said, we've done this and obliterated that country, obliterated it, and we lost 13 men, people would have said, that's not possible to have done that. It's not possible. Right. So we've done a great job, and I don't want to be rushed by people that are really treasonous as far as I'm concerned, where they're, and it's just, you know, I watch this low IQ guy, Hakeem Jeffries. He's a totally low IQ person, and he's always ranting and raving, oh, this war is so terrible, terrible. They shouldn't be saying that when we're in the midst of a negotiation, because it does hurt us somewhat. It gives the other side some hope, and I don't want them to have hope.
Wow. And this is one of the greatest negotiators in the world in the context of deals. And he's saying that the Democrats, through their rhetoric of basically going after Donald Trump, are stifling a lot of the deals that are having. So we had the deadline. 3 a.m. this morning, Iranian time, which was just a few hours ago, that Iran was supposed to make a deal. The ceasefire ended, and the U.S. was supposed to begin a bombing campaign. That didn't happen. Instead, what happened is Trump came out and issued a memo pertaining to this, and we're going to go ahead and pull this up. And let me think here. Hold on. Where was it? Oh, there it is. He says, based on the fact that the government of Iran is seriously fractured, not unexpectedly so, and upon the request of Field Marshal Asim Munir and Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif of Pakistan, we've been asked to hold our attack on the country of Iran until such a time their leaders and representatives can come up with a unified proposal. I have therefore directed our military to continue the blockade and, in all other respects, remain ready and able, and will therefore extend the ceasefire until such a time as their proposal is submitted and discussions are concluded one way or another. Well, that's noble of him. But why is he saying that? Because there's more going on in Iran than meets the eye. Over the last few years, when we talked about Iran, going back to even 2024, when we started talking about the decapitation event on Hezbollah that was ran by Israeli intelligence, which, by the way, was still one of the most significant and well-executed military operations in the history of mankind, besides the U.S. Delta Force operation that took out Maduro. Since that time, we've been seeing this trend line pattern that we've been reporting on. And we knew that there was a color revolution, a coup d'etat going on in Iran. And we knew that once the Ayatollah Khomeini was taken out, that there would be a power vacuum. And in the Trump administration, what they've been doing is trying to angle themselves in support of representation of various different people that they can put in place that can negotiate and become the fillers of that power vacuum. The problem is you have what's known as IRGC hardliners. And if you understand how Iran operates, you have the theocracy that sits above the whole government, and you have the IRGC, which is basically the special military of the theocracy, of the mullahs and the Ayatollah. And then you have the civilian components of government and the Iranian army over here. The problem is that the IRGC kind of steps in, and they have kind of really massive power within this infrastructure. So yeah, today Iran issued a direct warning. And well, going back. So over the course of the last month and a half of this war, one thing that we've seen is there's this dichotomy within the leadership of Iran. And this is exactly what we predicted and exactly what we said has been going on for some time. That you have IRGC hardliners that are really calling the shots, and then you have the civilian government behind the scenes, which are trying to make deals. They really want to remove sanctions. They find this as an opportunity to move forth with their country and rebuild. But they do understand that you have a radicalized division within the IRGC that will take the vengeance to a holy war stage if they want to. And I think that the civilian components of government don't want that to happen. But they do want to preserve as much power as they possibly can. So you have these two factions that are fighting. So the IRGC today just released right before the end of the deadline. They said if neighboring countries help attacks, they can say goodbye to oil production. And so Iran has laid out a map of oil production, refinery facilities, and pipelines in the Middle East, which will be attacked if the United States starts attacking them again. And this is their way to try to ensure their survivability. Well, what they don't understand is that things are different this time around. This is retired four-star General Jack Keane. And I want you to listen to what he says right here about what comes next for Iran and the United States.
No doubt if we go back to combat operations because everything falls apart here, I'm sure somebody's going to lean across the table and tell them, if you guys don't make a deal, we're coming after you personally.
Right. Yeah.
That all of you and the rest of your cohorts, their lives will be at stake. And you're going to get back to, number one job for them will be personal security. Number two will be preserving the regime. But number one will be hiding from our bombs and our missiles. That's a fact. And certainly the Israelis, who have great intelligence, the CIA also, in terms of locations, will do everything we can. Now, these guys, they've learned some lessons, and they're digging into much deeper holes in terms of protecting them well under the ground so that our bombs can't get near them. But that's certainly the leadership targets are high-value targets, and they'll be up there. But listen, Cargallen sits out there. Right now, we're blocking everything coming out of it. Think of what it would mean if we took it down and destroyed it. And I'm certain we will mention that reality in the negotiations, as well as everything else that they care about, not just their military targets per se in terms of weapons, but all the infrastructure that supports weapons. And that has to do with power plants and everything else that's on that target list. By the way, just so our adversaries know if they're listening, we have twice as much combat air power in the region today than we did when we began the war some weeks ago. And the Israelis are full up and stocked and have the depth of magazines ready to go in terms of ammunition and weapons. So what would be unleashed on them now will be considerably more formidable than what they experienced weeks ago and what we were ending with.
Yep. So the U.S. military has ramped up a lot of things since this began. Not only did Iran rearm, the United States military is pre-positioned to absolutely annihilate the infrastructure in this country. It's going to be very, very bad for Iran if they do not take a deal. Today, the U.S. military boarded another ship, this one believed to be part of Iran's Shadow Fleet vessel. This is the Tiffany, a tanker in the Indo-Pacific, and they seized all the oil. That's Trump for you. So Iran has begged am I lazy, not a follower on YouTube, Facebook, and Rumble for me? Sorry, I don't know what that means. But guys, oh yeah, man, 1,000 people on YouTube watching. Let's get some thumbs up on YouTube, guys. Come on. Oh, dude. Hey, Rumble. YouTube is competing with you guys. Look at this. Over 1,000 watchers on YouTube. We got 1,500 on Rumble. Let's get those numbers up and let's get those likes up. Come on. Who's going to win, YouTube or Rumble tonight? So Iran begged for the blockade to be lifted. Trump refused. Iran thought by telling President Trump and J.D. Vance to screw off on Pakistan talks on 47 would be forced in lifting the blockade, except he's keeping the blockade, all of our military forces. They were hoping that with Pakistan negotiating as the intermediary, they would let the blockade open up. It's not just going to happen. The reason why they're not going to allow the blockade to open up is because of this. Let me pull this up. It's what Scott Bessent has said in the recent day.
Bessent says, quote, in a matter of days, Karg Island storage will be full and the fragile Iranian oil wells will be shut in. The blockades turned around 28 ships sailing to or from Iranian ports, most of them oil tankers. And we took custody of a runner sailing in from China with missile ingredients.
We caught a ship yesterday that had some things on it which wasn't very nice. A gift from China, perhaps.
Bessent.
Okay, right there, Bessent. In the matter of days, Karg Island storage will be full and the fragile Iranian oil wells will be shut in. Understand the timing of how Donald Trump framed this ceasefire agreement was to correlate directly with the coffers of Iranian oil being full. Because here's the thing, is if they don't start getting that oil out, they got to get rid of it. And that means they're losing massive amounts of money. You don't just throw billions of dollars of money away. So this is go back to General Jack Keane. What he was saying is, I wouldn't be surprised if Trump goes in and takes Karg Island. So you take out massive amounts of infrastructure, bridge, roads, highways, electric production facilities, military runways out within Iran, and then you take Karg Island. Trump has expressed that it'd be very, very hard to hold. Well, it's very, very hard to hold when Iran does have naval capabilities and it does have Air Force capabilities, of which those have been greatly reduced. But if you absolutely decimate the leadership, you start taking out IRGC hardliners, then what you use is you take that and use that as a negotiating piece to kind of go back in. Now, here's where it starts to get interesting with what is happening with Iran. And actually, I gotta do one thing real quick. We're gonna run this Rumble one, and I gotta run this Rumble wallet campaign real quick, guys. I appreciate you, but I was supposed to get it out earlier, but I didn't get it out. So let me go into here. Let me make sure it's the right one. There it is. Okay. Real quick, and we'll get back into the news. They can cancel your accounts, freeze your cards, decide what you're allowed to buy, say, or support. Big banks and financial institutions have total control, and they use it. That's why financial independence matters more now than ever. Introducing Rumble Wallet, a wallet built for real freedom. With Rumble Wallet, you control your money, not a bank, not a government, not a tech company. Buy digital assets like Tether, Tether Gold, and Bitcoin in one secure place. No permission, no middlemen, no cancel button. And when you want to support creators you actually believe in, you can use Rumble Wallet app to directly tip content creators securely, instantly, and without interference. This isn't a credit line that can shut off. It's your wallet permanently, yours to protect your future, yours to protect your family. When the system fails, when institutions turn on their own people, financial sovereignty is the difference between security and vulnerability. Rumble Wallet isn't about politics. It's about freedom, ownership, and protecting what's yours. So take control today. Download Rumble Wallet now and step away from the big banks for good. True ownership, true protection, true financial freedom. Wallet.rumble.com. Awesome. Thanks for letting me run that, guys. And go back here, get everything out. Okay. So this is where Iran starts to get really, really interesting. And I know I don't have these blown up. Let me blow these up a little bit. Okay. So Saeed Abbas Araghchi, we've seen this foreign minister talking a few different times, and I think he's the liaison, basically the mouthpiece for the IRGC in the civilian component. He says blockading Iranian ports is an act of war and thus a violation of the ceasefire. Striking a commercial vessel and taking its crew hostage is an even greater violation. Iran knows how to neutralize restrictions, how to defend its interests, and how to resist bullying. Maybe Araghchi didn't understand, but I'm pretty sure bombing their military, eliminating half their leadership, and sinking their navy is also an act of war. In other words, just because there's a ceasefire doesn't mean war has ended and war tactics have ended. Iran lost the war. Understand that. Iran has lost the war. Iran's acting as if they still have a place at the table. They don't. They simply have Donald Trump being very, very generous and nice with them. The ceasefire isn't an end to the war. It's an end to kinetic warfare that Donald Trump is saying, we're going to do these things. He is sticking right along the line of what he said he was going to do with the blockade. We're going to go to the blockade during the ceasefire. We're going to go out there. We're going to board your vessels, and we will bomb the shit out of them. That is not a new war. That is a continuation of the same war with just different tactics that are being played out. The ceasefire is simply for Iran to get its shit together so they can come to the table and negotiate. So I talked about this earlier. Donald Trump said, based on the fact that the government of Iran is seriously fractured. Well, this is what we've been saying. Now what are we getting? We're starting to get the reports of the truth. Remember how I told you when J.D. Vance went to Islamabad, you had Araghchi and the other foreign ministers that came in and they started negotiating. They made progress. And then what happened? What happened is IRGC hardliners came in immediately afterwards, and J.D. Vance ended negotiations and left. So reports are circulating that a revolutionary uprising in Tehran, IRGC placed Galibaf, Prajikin, and Araghchi under house arrest. Negotiation with the U.S. are halted. Unverified, no credible confirmation yet, but gaining traction. Much of this is being pushed by anti-Iran, pro-Saudi accounts. This is from Mario, and he is not the only one talking about this. Jesse Waters on Fox News actually reporting on this as well. Listen to this. Oop, that's the wrong. Hi, Josh. I just put myself on the screen.
Fox News alert, bridge and power plant day could now be any day of the week. A fierce power struggle breaking out in Iran. And President Trump showing a lot of patience. 47 says U.S. airstrikes have seriously fractured the regime. So Pakistan asked us to hold off on B&P Day until Iran can get it together. Tonight, there could be a coup. No one knows who's calling the shots. Vance, Witkoff, and Kushner were supposed to leave for Islamabad, but they never took off because the Iranian delegation never took off, which is suspicious because this morning, Trump said the gay Ayatollah authorized the deal.
They just got the okay to go forward, which I knew they were going to do anyway. I mean, I don't think they had a choice. They have to negotiate. And, you know, the one thing I'll say is this: Iran can get themselves on a very good footing if they make a deal. They can make themselves into a strong nation again, a wonderful nation again. They have incredible people. But they seem to be, you know, bloodthirsty.
So the gay Ayatollah told his ministers wheels up, but the military said not so fast. We're basically looking at another Iranian hostage crisis. This time they've taken themselves hostage, and therefore the negotiations. The IRGC won't agree to sign over the Strait and the uranium, and they're the only votes that matter because they're the ones with the guns. The generals are demanding Trump lift the blockade as a precondition for more peace talks. They want to play an economic game of chicken.
Iran sees this as a game of endurance. They believe that time is on their side and that ultimately the domestic pressure when it comes to energy markets and the stock market will force President Trump to make a deal that's in their favor. That is not the truth. That is not the reality. The president and his counterparts in Israel have the ability to continue this operation for months if they need to.
It's the Iranians up against the clock. The blockade's already cost them over $1 billion. Checks are bouncing, and their economy's in a death spiral and facing a great...
Okay, let's break this back down and look at this. So New reports is that generals are blocking peace talks, holding their own negotiators hostage while the economy collapses. There's rumors that the gay Ayatollah has actually been taken over, killed by the IRGC. So a lot of information coming out of Iran tonight, but we don't know what is true, what is not. Obviously, pro-Saudi accounts are stating this. What we can kind of confirm is that there is an uprising in Iran over the civilian component of the government. And this isn't new. I've been talking about this literally since this all began, is that right when you take out the Ayatollah, once you take out the clergy, the mullahs, you're going to have a power vacuum, which is going to be filled by IRGC hardliners. And a lot of what Trump has been doing over the course of the last month is trying to indicate who is in charge. Is it the civilian components of the government, or is it the IRGC hardliners? So I think that you're going to see strikes commence within the next day or two. And the targets are what they're waiting for is they're waiting for these IRGC hardliners, the ones that they have identified as the leaders of the IRGC, to meet. And you're going to see bombs drop on their head. I'm telling you, that's what you're going to see over the course of probably the next few days. That's my thoughts. Because Trump wants Galabath and El-Arashi and Prezhikin. He wants them to succeed. They are ready to do a deal. But right now you have this power faction that is trying to disrupt and dismantle it because they believe that they can bring about the holy war and expand this to a multi-year war. Right now, Iran could fight a multi-year war. The moment Donald Trump hits critical infrastructure and their oil, it's over. It's done. It's gone. They turn into Iraq 2.0. So that's what we're watching right now. Lots of interesting things happen. I lost it there for a second. Okay. I'm back, guys. I'm back. And don't forget tonight, right after this show, DEFCON 0 over on Badlands Media. And you can find that on YouTube, and you can also find that on Rumble. And I wanted to give a shout out to Tatia Schmidt, 7597. Thank you, Josh, for keeping us all up to date. Don't know how I could make it through all this crazy without you. Thank you so much, Tatia. That's a $5 super chat right there. Appreciate you. And going through Rumble. Oh, man, Rumble. Nothing in Rumble. I didn't see any coming in Rumble, but appreciate you guys. No, we're not done yet. We still have a lot more show to go, about halfway through what we were trying to get through. I just have to go and find the hell where the hell I was. I lost my place. Oh, there we are. Okay, so it's a hard transition, and we're about to hard transition into the next part here. And this is where it starts to get interesting. We come back home, step away from Iran for a second. But my predictions on Iran is Iran cannot last 3 to 4 days. Their oil is about to overflow. The IRGC has got to make a move. I think that the IRGC's only move at this point right now would be a preemptive strike on all oil infrastructure in the Middle East and U.S. assets. If I was the IRGC and I'm looking at this, it's game, set, match the moment that Donald Trump goes back to Kinetic, and they're not going to agree to any deal. Also, they would want to eliminate the opposition within the civilian counterparts. So you could see a massive uprising over the course of the next few days of a transition of what happens here. I think that the U.S. military and intelligence knows this, and they're watching this very closely, and they probably got active plans that if they see this actually pushed into motion, that they're going to eliminate those threats very, very fast. All right, transitioning. FBI Director Kash Patel says leftist NGO, Southern Poverty Law Center. This is the first NGO to fall, which has now been indicted, was using donors to pay leaders of the Ku Klux Klan to stage hate crimes. Wait, what? Oh, yeah. They used the fraudulently raised money by lying to their donor network, thousands of Americans, to go ahead and actually pay the leadership of these supposed violent extremist groups. Furthermore, the investigation revealed that the Southern Poverty Law Center, on the top of perpetuating this widespread decade-long multi-million-dollar fraud, conducted more criminal activity. They attempted to hide their criminal activity from our financial banking networks. They set up shell companies and entities around America so that the financial institutions that they rely on every day, Americans were deceived into believing that money was not coming from the Southern Poverty Law Center in the perpetuation of the scheme and fraud, but rather fictitious entities they stood up to perpetuate this fraud. So Todd Blanche revealed today, this is where, no, we're not. So people are saying boots in the ground. I don't think we're going to have boots in the ground. I don't think it's going to go that level. But Todd Blanche, that's what he has to say.
It came out. What about Charlottesville and the Charlottesville Unite the Right rally? Were they involved in that?
Yes. So what we allege in the indictment and what the grand jury found is that one of the individuals that they paid was one of the folks who helped organize that terrible event. And so so imagine what we're talking about, Laura. We're talking about an organization that actively came out and just screamed it from the top of their lungs.
So just so people understand watching this, did these informants in some cases, given the evidence you've seen, actually initiate what would ultimately be these activities? And obviously Charlottesville ended with a tragedy.
Well, we know that they were part of those. They were part of it. Whether they were the leaders or the initiators, that'll come out, I think, eventually. But what we do know is that the very entities that this group was raising money to go against are the very entities that they were taking the money in and paying to these entities and these individuals associated with those groups.
What was the money used for?
Well, we don't know, because again, all we know is that they set up these fictitious bank accounts.
Fake names, like the Constitution Group or whatever it was called. Then they had one called Fox Photography.
Right, completely fictitious as far as the investigation has shown, and they were using it simply to funnel money to these individuals. The indictment talks about a situation where they paid an individual to steal documents from the organization and then return the documents, and then when somebody else took the hit for it, they paid that person too. To take the hit for that. And so
So I love how the DOJ is actually approaching this. And look at this. I mean, just a few days into Todd Blanche and you're already seeing movement and push ahead. And the Southern Poverty Law Center is an indication of what's about to come for these NGOs, because what he just mapped out there is actually how this operates on a much larger scale with the Tides Foundation, Ford Foundation, Open Societies Foundations, and a lot of these other NGOs. And what he was trying to tell you is, if we saw this, was that they funded the Charlottesville event through proxy illegitimate organizations, right? So they'd create like Constitutional Patriots Group. And they'd go out there and they'd fund agitators to go in, to go and produce the violence, which then violence would erupt, and then they use that against Donald Trump, and then that organization's main component goes in there and completely makes massive amounts of money in donations, because obviously the Southern Poverty Law Center, and because that's what they do, but also they get to hammer Donald Trump and utilize that as the constructive narrative. And so this is huge, because it's an indication of what's about to come for all of these other NGOs that are going to be associated with not just these protests and events, Minneapolis, Portland, LA, New York, you know what I'm talking about, the Summer of Love. Wait till they begin to investigate that part, and you find the NGOs involved in perpetuating that through shell and proxy organizations. So, that's coming down the pipe. Mario Newall put out today that there's an anonymous source, quote unquote, that Tulsi Gabbard has been given till the midterms to resign. I don't think that Tulsi Gabbard's going to resign per se. I think Tulsi Gabbard is probably going to leave the Trump administration after the midterms. And it's not because she's resigning. It's because she's going to be getting ready for a 2028 run. And I think that is planned, by the way. But the question comes in is, who becomes your replacement for Director of National Intelligence when Tulsi's job is done and Tulsi moves on to the next level to get ready for the 2028 election? And one thing that we got an indication of that today. Are you ready for it? Devin Nunes has left Truth Social, the Trump Media Group, to focus on Intel oversight role. So Devin Nunes has been part of a working group through the National Security Council, working with ODNI. And so now he's moving into that position full time. It's my thoughts that after the midterms, Tulsi is going to be leaving. And I don't think it's bad blood or anything like this. It's not associated with any of that other stuff. It is simply for 2028. And there's a strategy that they are going to use for 2028. Tulsi, Bobby Kennedy, Rubio, and J.D. Vance all play a major role in this. And maybe we'll talk about that in a few days on the show, because this is something that I've been looking at in the strategy for 2028. But Tulsi plays a big role in that 2028, and I think that she is going to kind of branch off from the Trump administration after the midterms, and I think that that's going to be directed by her and Trump. I think that's part of a plan. But this is your man who's most likely going to come in as your director of national intelligence, Devin Nunes. Oh, yeah, baby. The coordinated effort to get President Trump. Senator Eric Schmidt, it wasn't just about President Trump. This was about going after the American right, which makes Watergate look like third-rate burglary. And he's absolutely right. What we are watching right now be declassified and unfold in front of us is we're watching pieces that are kind of coming up. 2020 election fraud. 2016 ICA. FISA-gate. We got the 2018 midterms. We got NGOs in the Summer of Love and all of this. Well, yeah, but guess what? They're all interconnected. They're all tied in together. And so when you start to pull the veil back, you start seeing that the 2020 election fraud is the culmination of all of this. And we're about to witness potential justice coming for all of this. So, Eli Crane, let's listen to what he has to say with John Solomon today.
All right, sir, you served in uniform on the front lines. You know the threats we face. When you hear that our intelligence community kept from the American public, from the Congress, some significant vulnerabilities in our 2020 election system. That's what these documents, Tulsi Gabbard declassified, show. That they also knew that China had penetrated multiple state voter registration databases and did untoward things with the data, but they kept that from us, and then they sold us a bill of goods saying, secure election in history, which clearly these documents show you won't. What goes to your mind? Why don't we need to have an intelligence community that tells us the truth?
100%, John. And, honestly, it just confirms what many of us have believed for a long time. I never for a second believed that, Joe Biden got 81 million votes, over 10 million more than Barack Obama got. I think almost 15 million more than Hillary Clinton got. I mean, I remember people being excited about, Barack Obama, even though I clearly didn't like him. But nobody was excited about Joe Biden. And I mean, the Democrats were obviously, that was a time during COVID, they were pushing the mail-in ballots, which we all know are the easiest way to inject fraud into an election system. Meanwhile, we've got these machines and tabulators that are not new technology. They're very hackable. I mean, John, all the time up here, I go down into the SCIF and listen to folks from the FBI and Homeland Security talking to us about, how foreign adversaries are hacking, some of the equipment that, we use that is a lot newer, a lot more robust, has a lot more protections. And, it's just never really bought that this was a clean election at all. And once again, we're just learning more that many of us believe for a long time. And I can't wait to, hear more of the drops that are coming.
Yeah, important stuff.
Absolutely. Well, and among the vulnerabilities, go ahead.
I do want to say, guys, I'm also not surprised though. I feel like we're seeing the exact same thing with the SAVE Act right now. The Democrats do not want us to have secure elections. That's why they will not, even though it's a 80-20 issue, they do not want non-citizens voting in our elections. That's why they won't pick up the SAVE Act, Save America Act. And, it's just, we're seeing the same thing. I mean,
and the question is why? The reason why is because that's the only way that they can win elections. Either they rig the voter crowd with illegal aliens that come in, which they can control through gangs and through cartels and through force and coercion, because that's what happens here in Minnesota with the Muslim communities. If you didn't know how this operates, they bring in all of these Somalis, and then they make them bring their ballots to the mosque, where the Aman collects the ballots and then hands them off to a group that goes and fills them out, then brings them back to all the Somalis and tells them to go submit them. And that's done through force and coercion. And that happens in a lot of places with these illegal immigrants. So that's one of the reasons why, because it's the only way that they can win votes. What you would find out is America is more red than you could ever imagine. So the printer glitch. Why 7,000 ballots every 30 minutes were rejected, proving that Maricopa County's printers were deliberately misconfigured in the 2020 election, turning thousands of ballots into unreadable rejects, which forced ballots into manual adjudication, where there is no oversight, no transparency, and no paper trail. The same glitch happened all over the country, where taxpayer votes are in the hands of a few people in private, and that they can change hundreds of thousands of votes at a click of a button. This is from the Skiff on X. Massive non-random misfeeds, up to 7,000 ballots rejected every 30 minutes all day, far exceeding the legal 1 in 500 max misfeed rate. Hit 17,000 total in Maricopa County, mostly in key vote centers. Changed from heavy to more normal fusion. Timing marks to critical black sync line scanners need. Came out too light, blotchy. Toner never fused properly, so tabulators spat ballots back out as invalid photocopies. 5% image shrinking sabotage. Ballot images printed at 19 inches instead of 20 inches. Length edge markers, timing syncs. The list goes on. In other words, this was massive fraud. Fraud beyond what you could ever imagine. And here's the other key part to this. And we learned about this January 17th, 2020, with John Ratcliffe, as when he was Director of National Intelligence, report that came out pointing the finger at China. But we really didn't know how China was involved in the 2020 elections. So this is from Catherine Herridge, that multiple sources are telling her that a credible whistleblower complaint was filed, alleging that the CIA, FBI, and other intelligence community agencies suppressed intelligence about China's influence operation during the 2020 election, targeting President Trump and his campaign. China's goal was to impede President Trump's re-election and denigrate him as a candidate. According to the accounts, the CIA, led by Director Gina Haspel, would not document the Chinese influence operation in a formal way out of concern that President Trump would use the intelligence to his advantage. Well, absolutely. So what you have here is you have the Intelligence Committee, right? Sorry, the Intelligence Community. Did we go offline for a minute? Oh, okay. I thought someone said buffering. What you have here is the intelligence community showing you that they did not give the president legitimate intelligence that China was running disinformation and psychological warfare campaigns against the American people because they thought that the president would use it to his advantage to win the election. That's fucking treason. In other words, you could reframe that. Members of the intelligence community, including the director of the Central Intelligence Agency, intentionally kept intelligence away from President Trump, therefore colluding with China. Because that's what really happened. Act Blue. Wait till they get into the magic mortgages. Sean Taylor here. Magic mortgage scandal is bigger than anyone imagined. Sean Taylor, if you don't know, former assistant police chief in Tennessee, owner of FTG Solutions, research analyst in election fairness. He says they've uncovered hundreds of billions in suspicious loans funneled through NGOs straight to the DNC and every radical left cause. We've talked about this multiple times. Act Blue CEO Regina Wallace Jones secured $67 million in mortgages on a single home assessed at under $1 million. This is the swamp's dark money pipeline in plain sight. And this is what you're going to start to see come out, I hope, with the Act Blue investigation. But China is our friend. There's two Chinas, the way you want to look at this. There's two Chinas. Secretary Pete Hegseth of the Department of War is restoring freedom to our joint forces, discarding the mandatory flu vaccine requirement effective immediately for all soldiers, sailors, airmen, and guardians. That's huge. You're forced to get that unless you have a waiver. I had a waiver. but the waivers are really hard to get. I was very fortunate of how I got mine. And, some interesting news that I caught right before I jumped on here. I text messaged a few different people to see if this was true. If people are familiar with the conspiracy world and, the people and the podcasters and influencers in this community, there was a guy out there by the name of David Wilcock, friends of Jordan Saver. I've met David a few different times, not friends with him or anything of that nature, but the allegations are that David Wilcock took his own life yesterday at his home in Nederland, Colorado. And so the reports are that police arrived on the scene of a man, obviously they said seeking mental health, with a pistol in his hand and shot himself. So I don't know if this is true or not in the sense of how this all unfolded. I would say anytime that you have people like David that this happens to, it's time to investigate this. Number one is any podcaster like this is where you start to investigate. So I hope people will do that. I know he had a lot going on in his life, and I don't know if this was something that just made him crack or if there's something more nefarious to all of this. But rest in peace, David Wilcock. All right. And real quick, we're going to do this, and then we're at 53 after. I want to just make sure that we're in the right place. Okay. Real quick, let me run this, and then we're going to go into final thoughts here. All right, parents, real talk for a second. America's about to hit a huge milestone. We're coming up on America's 250th birthday, 250 years of freedom, grit, sacrifice, and the greatest experiment of self-government the world has ever seen. This is the perfect moment to help your kids understand why this country matters, not just fireworks and hot dogs, but story behind it all. There's a free guide called The Kid's Guide to America's 250th Birthday. It's honestly a great way to introduce kids to how America began, who the founding fathers were, what they risked, and why the ideas they fought for still matter today. This guide sends kids back to the moment when brave men signed the Declaration of Independence, knowing full well they were risking their lives for freedom. It breaks it all down in a way kids can actually understand and enjoy without watering it down or turning it into boring schoolwork. If you care about raising kids who know where this country came from and why it's worth preserving, this is something you'll want to grab. And the best part, it's completely free with a special offer. You just need to pay the $2 for shipping and processing. Just head to freeusabirthday.com. That's freeusabirthday.com. And the Kid's Guide to America's 250th Birthday is yours for your kids today. America's story matters. Make sure the next generation knows it. And that is on Rumble. If anybody's looking for the link for that, they didn't catch that, go to Rumble, the Rumble channel, and you can find that right there. If you're on YouTube or something like that. Kid's Guide, I actually used them for my kids for the longest time. I got a few sitting in the house right on the shelf. They're actually pretty cool. Good stuff. So heading into DEF CON 0 here in about 30 minutes. And Kathy LaBelle 777, Mary, I kind of agree with you. I don't think that no, it's very indicative that he did do that to himself, but I think that there's technologies that can force people to do those types of things. And I don't think that this was voluntary. That's my thoughts on it with David Wilcock. Heading over to the DEF CON 0, got a lot going on. We've got a great interview coming up. For people who don't know who that interview is with, you are about to find out. Let's just say everybody's favorite congressman will be on DEF CON 0 in an hour. And then we have some other topics to talk about. We're going to debrief that. A lot of things happening. Eyes on Iran. Watch what happens there in the next few days. Watch for declassification. What's happening in Florida coming out. Potentially indictments. Crazy time to be alive. Amazing time to be alive. Don't forget tomorrow, live Q&A after this show. Live Q&A tomorrow after this show. And then also I want to put this out one last time just so we all have this information. For the live Q&A tomorrow, if you go to redpills.tv, which is our primary website, you will find the premium tab. That's where you can go get into live Q&A tomorrow night. But if you go to the homepage right here, we do have the Modern Occultism, the Hidden Architecture of Reality workshop coming up May 2nd. This is more demystifying the occult, okay? Just if you have like a bad feeling in your gut for the word occult, this is going to help you understand what that's actually talking about. And it's not what you think. It's not evil or anything like that. We're kind of trying to demystify that. So if you are interested in that, you can go into the redpills.tv, click on that. It's going to take you on over to where you can find the workshop. and all the information on that workshop. Yeah, it's got a scary triangle. Oh my God, Illuminati. Guys, we're going to take care of you. We're going to help you, guide you through all of this. So if you're interested in that workshop, hope to see you over there. On the website, you got the music, Red Pill music right there. If you like the music that we play during the show, you can find it all and purchase it right there. All of our different shows are linked up. So if you're like, where's this DEF CON 0 show? Right there is how you find it, okay? Right on the website. Our merch shop, obviously, a lot going on over there. Trusted partners, and this is where I wanted to stop really quick. GOODBRU, Gabe over there, Immune Supporting Mushrooms with Pet Club, 247 for your pets and for you. Remember, for your pets and for you. And then Lifewave. If you go on over to the Lifewave side, the X39, there's a lot happening here. So we have a meeting this Saturday. So people asking for the meeting. This is for anybody who's coming in as a brand advocate or people that are just getting their Lifewave patches and want to learn how to use them. I recommend getting on this Zoom. And then the Zoom is going to be the wrong date here. It says Friday, April 25th. It's Saturday, April 25th. Saturday, April 25th at 11 a.m. Eastern time. You just put your name and email address in there. You hit register for the Zoom call, and you'll get an email in the next few days with the Zoom link. All right, so you can go on over to redpills.tv or redpillpodcast.com/Lifewave. If you're just interested in Lifewave and you want to get started with them, just go to life.redpills.tv, and that's the best way to find them over there. All right, guys, much love, respect. God bless. Take care. Have a great night. We'll see you guys here in about 30 minutes over on DEF CON 0. Everybody on Rumble, if you stick by, I will go ahead and throw you over there through a raid. So much love, respect. God bless you guys. Take care. Have a great night.
There was a time when our children stood tall, hands on their hearts, one voice for all. There was a time when honor had weight, when the flag was a symbol, not a debate. There was a time when our history was known, with pride in the rules that made us our own. There was a time, respect for the brave, for those who bled, for the lives they gave. Now the homeland burns in silent war. Truth is twisted, we can't ignore. Voice still calls, we the people will not fall. There was a time, but the time isn't near. The great awakening is here. Dark to light, veil under, patriots rise. We are one, land of the free, home of the brave. Children of freedom, stand for the light. There was a time when truth was clear, when the media served, not ruled by fear. There was a time when leaders stood fast, guarding the people, defending the past. Now corruption wears a crown, lies are fed to tear us down. But Q said watch and Q said see, the silent war will set us free. From the front lines, soldiers stare, wondering if we're still there. Their blood, their hope, their sacrifice will not be sold for a last price.
freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. It must be fought for, protected, and handed on. Or we will spend our sunset years telling our children what it was once like in the United States where men were free.
There was a time, the time is near, the great awakening is here. Dark to light, veil undone, patriots rise, we are one. Land of the free, home of the brave, no more silence, no more slaves. Answer the call, take back the fight. Children of freedom, stand for the light. There was a time, there was a time, now is the time. Do it.
I don't have to tell you things are bad. Everybody knows things are bad. The air is unfit to breathe, and our food is unfit to eat. I don't know what to do about the depression and the inflation. I want you to get mad.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
People should not be afraid of their governments. Governments should be afraid of their people.
The more you fuck around, the more you're going to find out.
These people are still a part of that system, and that makes them our enemy.
We accept the reality of the world with which we're presented. It's as simple as that.
I want you to get up right now and go to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell, I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore!